Welcome to the Cotton Bowl. Roger Wallace and Billy Gates. Instant analysis after this Longhorn win, 23-6. First of all, Billy, boy, did you see it coming? They're down 6-0. Texas is. They kept Oklahoma out of the end zone. They get that field goal, but, man, second half was a flip of the switch.
Well, yeah, Roger, and I thought that Malik Muhammad interception there in the end zone to end the first half, I thought that was a nice springboard for the Longhorns to go into the second half. I thought that was a nice little momentum shift with Oklahoma kind of driving and stuff, and John Mateer just throws that ball up for grabs. It looked like the Oklahoma receiver was wide open in the end zone. It was just a bad throw. Muhammad gets it, gets the momentum in the locker room, and then that second half, the Texas offense went to work.
Different perspectives. You're in the new press box here in the Cotton Bowl in the south end zone. Obviously, I was with Craig Way on the radio, but in the post game, I know we talked to Sark, and well, you could feel the relief, and he was pretty fired up about what his team and kind of the perception of his team the last week has been through and the way they answer the bell.
Oh yeah, he's heard it all week. I mean, there's that article in The Athletic about how Arch Manning was college football's biggest flop in recorded history or whatever, and then just the entire week of them not being good enough on the offensive line, defensively, where Florida sort of exposed them with their defensive front, and I think tonight was just it was the ultimate answer for Sarkisian to kind of just quiet folks down a little bit, I think, about his team.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right.
Yeah.
I think things will calm down. There's a lot of other big national storylines going on in college football, and I think Texas will kind of go into the back burner. The thing to me that was so amazing compared to last week at Florida is everything they didn't do well, they did pretty well. The offensive line pushed the pile. The defense got a lot of pressure on John Mateer. Arch was very efficient. They nearly had Trey Wisener would have had 100 yards
almost,
except that loss at the end of the ball game, but they did it in every way. And that first drive in the second half to open it up.
Yeah, they were able to run the ball. I thought that was the biggest difference in the second half as far as offensive efficiency. Obviously, you get a big special teams play with Ryan Niblett taking that punt 75 yards. That was a beautiful punt return, and that was something that Sarkisian, he'd been talking about kind of all season, that special teams unit, that punt return unit kind of building, just not having a ton of opportunities. Finally, they got the opportunity. And Niblett, house call from 75 yards.
We had him on the radio show, and sometimes these guys that don't get a lot of run in the media, you're not quite sure what you can get. He's a fascinating story. He told us point blank he was ready to transfer.
Sure, yeah.
And Sark talked him out of it and believed in him, so then he started believing in himself, and he said they called that return. They had that left return. They set up the wall right down the sideline.
It was perfect.
Yeah, and he said that there's just no feeling like it when the – I don't say the seas parted because he was chugging down the sideline. And that was such a huge play in the ballgame because that gave him that two-score lead.
Yeah, two-score lead, 10 minutes left, and you could see the wind just come out of Oklahoma's sails. I mean, that was what I thought was the backbreaker of this whole thing. And you look at Arch Manning kind of going back to his performance, kind of seemed like Steve Sarkisian unlocked Manning a little bit, going with the short passing game, going with the screen game. 15 of Arch's 21 completions were within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage. I believe it was something like 12 screen passes, and then the other 3 were within 0 to 5 yards of the line of scrimmage. So you're not asking him to rip the ball down the field like everybody wants him to do, right? Everybody loves to see Arch Manning throw that deep ball. He only attempted 2 passes over 15 yards in the air, completed them both. So it's just one of those things where you just take pressure off your guy, right? You take pressure off your young guy, get him into a rhythm, easy completions, and that's what Sarkisian had been talking about all week, is trying to get him into that sort of rhythm, and he was able to do that today.
He ripped it on that pass to Parker Livingston.
Boy, that one had some heat on it.
Starting in their own 6-yard line and headed south, and big third down play, 21 yards.
Yeah.
It was interesting. DeAndre Moore had the touchdown catch. I asked him about on the radio about Arch and all that he goes through, and he goes, I admire Arch Manning. I think I have a lot. I can't imagine with all the stuff he has to deal with nationally and all the attention. And as you said, the pieces kind of come out of nowhere on this guy. And it was interesting to hear a teammate say that about Arch, and you kind of get the feeling that this guy is going through something that we really haven't seen in college football. And today he was just stoic.
Yeah.
21 of 27. How about this number? 11 of 12 on third down
Yeah.
passes.
Oh,
and 7
tremendous.
For first down. So, yeah, the numbers weren't gaudy. 21 of 27, I think 168 yards.
166, something like that, yeah.
But he didn't turn it over, and he threw a touchdown. And, when he had to run, and I did call the zone read, by the way, on third down.
Of course.
When he went for 29 yards and slid down, and you know what that slide meant to him. He knew that the game was in the books when he got that first down.
He clinched it with that big run. And, Steve talked about it in the post-game press conference. Arch got beat up against Florida. Like, he got knocked around, sacked 6 times, hurried a bunch of other times, hit a bunch of times when he was trying to scramble. But he got up, dusted himself off, kept going. And then when he got to practice the next week, Sarkisian said he gained a lot of respect from his teammates, as if he already didn't have enough respect from them, right? But he gained so much more because he didn't miss 1 rep of practice this week when he could have, he could have sat in the training room for a day or two getting treatment or whatever, but he wanted to be out there with his guys. And I think that says a lot about a quarterback, says a lot about the character of just a player in general when they're able to, get back on the horse after they've been knocked down and perform, in this type of manner. I thought that was a pretty interesting perspective from Steve.
So many different guys. Trey Wisner told us he came out, he hobbled out, he was been out for most of the season after Ohio State until Florida, but he was really limited. And he said the trainer Donald Wynn kind of got after him, and then he goes back in the ball game, and he obviously was huge. And Trevor Gooseby, I asked him about, does the line feel like they know when they're getting in a rhythm? We talk about with the quarterbacks and the running game. And he said they felt it. And it was so different, Billy, because if it's a 3-yard run, it was because they moved the line 3. And that gives them a chance to get the cutback, break a tackle, and all of a sudden it's an 8-yard run.
Lanes start to open when you move the line of scrimmage. And that's the basis of a zone scheme run game, right? Like you want to get that line of scrimmage, yard or two ahead of where it started, so those cutback lanes can open. And the second half especially, offensive line did terrific. And that was, to me, that was the key coming into the game. Like, how would this offensive line respond from a pretty bad game against Florida and how they would do against a really good defense in Oklahoma? And the first half, you started to see that Florida stuff kind of creep in, but man, whatever was said in the locker room at halftime, it woke the offensive line up, and that second half was tremendous. Yeah,
they had to have that first drive, and they did, and they did it in a lot of different ways. All right, now you got to deal with a different narrative. Now you got to deal with the the positive feedback, and all of a sudden they're going to be back in the rankings of both polls tomorrow, and they're going to be probably at least a touchdown favorite in Lexington. And Sark told us, he goes, that was my message after the game. Yeah, enjoy it. But, man, you guys still play with an edge.
Yeah, it's that old Nick Saban rat poison comparison, right? Like, everybody's going to tell you that you've done so well, that you went out, you beat your rival Oklahoma, knocked off the number 6 team in the country when you came in unranked. But now you got to reset and you got to go do it again against a Kentucky team that's dangerous, and you're on the road. And any time you're on the road in the SEC, it's an uncomfortable time.
That'll be a big deal in Lexington to have Texas come in. They are off this weekend, so they're going to be rested. By the way, back-to-back wins for Texas in this rivalry for the first time since 08-09 when Colt McCoy did it twice. Steve Sarkisian 3-2 in his first 5 Texas OU games. Been a while since a head coach has had that record through 5 ball games. So now 2 straight true road games before they come home. And the way this league is, if they can scuffle their way through a couple, they come home for Vanderbilt. It's a much different story we're talking about than last week.
Yeah, I mean, you move to 1-1 the SEC. It seems obvious that's a heck of a lot better than 0-2 in the SEC, right? So any win in this league is a good lead, or is a good win. And it's just one of those things where, like, you want to be back home, right? Like, so you want to have that momentum coming back home, and you have to go get this game in Kentucky, and that's just where they got to start.
Third time in 4 years in this game that they've won, they've kept Oklahoma out of the end zone. That's a pretty amazing stat. All right, Longhorns win it here at the Cotton Bowl, 23-6 for Billy Gates. I'm Roger Wallace. Thanks for watching.
Awesome.